G'day everyone, it's Pia from Gender Critiques. In this video, I'm just going to be addressing or having a look at the trans women are women narrative cult mantra and explaining why I personally refer to the trans rights and gender identity politics movement as a cult, and that's because it has distinctly and decidedly cultish properties, like cultish traits and characteristics to it, you know, the way it runs, its MO. I'll put a link in the description to one of Leah Taverley's videos, which actually she goes into like more detail on the similarities that between, you know, the trans activism, the gender identity movement, and the traits of cults. And I'll also put a link to an article by Jen Smith, who is fairly well known gender critical activist. And is also transsexual. So Jen's on our side basically, and has been sort of headbutting with Morgan Schreckster in Canada quite a bit recently. Well, Morgan like headbutts with everyone because Morgan is an absolute massive fucking A-grade fucking wanker basically. But anyways, I'll put a link to an article that Jen wrote, and it's called Cyanon, and it's actually also furthermore like drawing and highlighting the comparisons between trans activism, the gender identity movement, and cults and how they operate. But one of the things is like, and if I knew how, I would embed a clip out of like a bit from an old Simpsons episode where basically, you know, remember when the Simpsons got in Homer, got sucked into that cult, and the cult couldn't get through to Homer Simpson, and then finally they did it by just repeating something over and over when he was eating, like, you know, don't do it, he's God, don't do it, he's God. Well, trans women and women, the repetition is basically the same thing. It's just like by rote, you know. It's designed to shut down critical analysis. They want to derail that, and they want to silence any kind of examination, you know, or scrutiny, because they know for a fact, they know damn well that the ideology in the movement it's got nothing, you know. Once you cut away all the shit on the surface, which is, you know, and the propaganda, and once you cut away the incredible amount of power these fuckers have, you know, and all the other things like, you know, the dudes that are out there virtue signalling, scoring woke points for jumping on this bandwagon and attacking TERFs, the MRAs who've jumped on the TRA bandwagon as well, because they've realised that, hey, look at this, we can attack and abuse and target women online and call them fucking everything under the sun, and we're going to get patted on the back for it, because as long as we call them TERFs, you know. So they're loving this shit as well. But anyway, when I say trans cult, it's so many ways that they go about just basically silencing fucking anyone that questions, any detractors, and derailing and suppressing any kind of independent thought from within their own ranks. Anyone that does, you know, start questioning shit, that's when that person will be like basically kicked out. Like, you know, it's all or nothing. Either you're with us 100%, you back every one of us up, or you're out. You're on that side, you know, with those evil fucking TERFs and shit. Like, and and if they don't do that outright, like probably a lot of the ones that would have been questioning, you know, or could question, probably won't, because they're under fear of the threat of that happening, you know. And if you're a teenager and shit, and this is your peer group, I mean, that means a lot to you when you're in your teens. You haven't sort of fully figured out who you are yet, you know. Your peer group is very, very important. Like for me personally nowadays, I mean, I'm 43, I don't give a fuck about peer group, but, you know, I might have done for a few years in my teens, I guess. Looking back, it's so long ago now. Anywho, so the reason I refer them as the cult is because they are basically like a fucking cult. Trans women is just yet another tactic and strategy that they use for derailing conversation, for stopping any kind of critical analysis, and for redirecting attention from themselves because they don't want scrutiny, and instead of like opening themselves up for scrutiny, they'll attack the person that's looking at them closely, you know, and getting other people to. Some of the other ways, the thing is with the repetition, like, for all that they tend to call, like, TERFs Nazis and shit, and say that we're fucking fascists and yada, 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 which we know obviously we're not. It's really, really ironic, because if you look at, like, the whole, like, which is Godwin's law, right? But what I'm about to say now, this isn't Godwin's Law. This is an honest God observation. I'm not doing Godwin's Law. I'm not going, oh, you're Nazi. No, they did that. They started it. But if you actually look at the like quotes and shit from Goebbels, who, you know, was like Hitler's propaganda genius, he basically is the big lie. And the big lie is basically, if you pick one thing and you repeat it over and over and over, no matter how outlandish it is, if you keep repeating it over and over, eventually some of the masses are going to start to believe it. And once that happens, it'll just pick up momentum, you know, they'll all jump on the back, because, like, you know, it'll become sort of an accepted truth in society because too many people don't question shit, you know. So yeah, for all that they accuse us of being Nazis, it's really, really fucking ironic and quite entertaining when you realise that we're not the ones, like, taking our lead from fucking Goebbels and Hitler's fucking playbook on propaganda, you know, like. But hey, repeating something over and over doesn't make it right, you know. It's still fucking wrong. Like, I mean, I can repeat that Pierre is a millionaire, Pierre is a millionaire, Pierre is a millionaire, and, you know, funnily enough, it's not happened yet, you know. I wish. Well, there's another false narrative of the trans rights activist movement to war, trans women or women. You know what? No, they're not trans. Trans women are not women. Fuck off. No matter how many times you say it, doesn't make it true, you know. But unfortunately, there are a few fucking dumbass people out there that'll hear it often enough and they'll start to believe it, which is scary. But that's, I guess, why the tactic is so effective and why it works so well in the Second World War as well for Goebbels and Hitler. You know, like, I mean, honestly, gender identitarians, you're taking your playbook out from the best, really, aren't you? Like, you know, if you want to dominate the masses and fucking, you know, completely undermine one marginalised group of people's fucking rights and humanity, like, and existence, like women.